We're just going to give it a moment to let the waiting room clear. Please make sure you're muted as you enter.
Greetings, everyone.
Hello. Just make sure you're muted until you're called to present. Okay, and we will get started. Good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board, the BCB. Today is May 15th, 2024. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Cannabis Board. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner John Smith, Commissioner Gabriel Camacho, Commissioner Sonal Gandhi, and Commissioner Ramon Soto.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. My name is Jasmine Nguyen. I am the Boston Cannabis Board Manager. We are also joined by Luke Sandhouse, who is the Cannabis Licensing Specialist. I will begin by calling each item into the order they appear on the agenda. The first item is an amendment to an already approved establishment. So they will have 5 minutes to present to the BCB, and then we will move on to our new license application, in which they will have 10 minutes to present to the BCB, followed by questions from the board members. We will then take public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives, followed by the general public. If you wish to testify, please sign up via the link that will be put in the chat. If you have done so already, you don't have to do it again. Additionally, you may use the chat function to request to testify as well. Please wait until the matter in which you would like to speak about is called in order to give testimony. Do not use the chat function to give testimony. It will not be considered. Please state your full name, address, and affiliation, if any. Testimony will be limited to 2 minutes, at which time you will be muted. Additional testimony may be submitted in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. The record will be kept open until Tuesday, May 21st at 5 p.m. The BCB does not give any more weight to spoken testimony than it does written testimony. We will begin with the first item, which is East Boston Local Roots LLC, DBA East Boston Cannabis Co. The license premise is at 1006 Bennington Street, East Boston. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary license. The request is for a change of ownership interest. The licensee is seeking to transfer 8.56% interest from James Skinner to Linda Skinner, and Elliot LaBelle is transferring 0.5% interest to Lenore LaBelle. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. Leslie Delaney Hawkins with the law firm of Prince LaBelle on behalf of the licensee. As Ms. Nguyen read into the record, this is a transfer of minority interest. Both of the individuals referenced passed away and are requesting to convey their respective minority non-controlling interests to their respective spouses. There are no changes to operations and no other changes here. Also, this is a non-equity license, and neither of these changes, individually or taken together, rise to the level of requiring a Cannabis Control Commission application. So we respectfully request, pursuant to any questions the board may have, the approval of these conveyances.
Thank you, Attorney Hawkins. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Holmes?
No, ma'am. Attorney Hawkins answered it in her statement, so I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
No questions. I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Soto?
No questions.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. No questions.
Commissioner Gandhi?
Thank you. No questions.
All right, we'll move to public testimony. Is there anyone here that would like to testify on this matter? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we will move to our new license application. The applicant is J. Lau and Company LLC. The DBA is the Finest Cannabis Company LLC. The proposed license premise is 354A Chestnut Hill Ave in Brighton. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant. They initially filed the application on August 11th, 2023. They filed with Inspectional Services on November 13th, 2023, and the community meeting was held on March 27th, 2024. There is a buffer zone conflict with another cannabis establishment. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good afternoon, Ms. Nguyen. Christopher Ray, Ray at Law PLLC. I'm the attorney for the applicant.
Okay. You have 10 minutes. You may share your screen and begin.
Thank you. I would also like to introduce Jonathan Lau, the proprietor of the applicant, and our security consultant, Dave Corbin. John, I believe you're muted, John.
I apologize for that. Greetings to the Cannabis Board and the commissioners today. My name is Jonathan Lau. I'm a social equity applicant number 300501, approved by the state CCC. Just a little about myself. I'm born and raised in the Metro Boston area. I'm also married and have two wonderful children, Jaden, age 10, and Janessa, age 7. For much of my childhood, I would go to Cleveland Circle to eat at Prestos or Pino's, maybe even the Ground Round. Sometimes even watch a movie at Cleveland Circle Cinemas. After the movie, maybe play some games at the arcade before leaving the theater for a 5-minute walk home. I have been a part of this community for a long time. I live less than 1 mile from this area since 1983, and I care about the Brighton-Allston community as much as anyone in the community. I started my first business in Brighton in 2014, and since that time, many things have changed. My love for the community and my dream to open a cannabis location stays the same. To this day, my family still uses the MDC Riley pool. We still go to Pino's for pizza, and we still go to 7-Eleven for snacks and slushies. So I want everyone in attendance to understand that I am part of the community and I hear your concerns. We address the parking problem in the area on Sundays by leasing 5 dedicated spaces marked 15-minute parking only. We believe that that will alleviate any parking problems that might have been a concern in the past. And also, I have been operating an adult-only 21-plus retail store for the last 10 years. At one time, I had 2 shops going, and I have experience in the adult retail market. One of my main concerns are keeping products away and out of the hands of minors. To address this concern, we plan to use FlowHub ID scanner system to verify and authenticate all IDs at proper checkpoints to ensure no minors gain entry and deter counterfeit IDs. Pass it along to Chris.
Okay, thanks, John. So, John touched on some of the overview of the applicant. I'm going to talk a little bit about our diversity and inclusion plan, our employment plan, and some other features of our application, and then I'll pass over to Mr. Corbin. So by way of overview, our diversity and inclusion plan is built around, the rules that are set out under this commission's guidance for plans to ensure that the applicant is always at least as diverse as the city of Boston. Our written materials will go into a great deal more detail on this plan that I'm going to be able to hear. But by way of brief overview, the diversity and inclusion plan will be managed by the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of the applicant. The initial head of that committee is going to be Jonathan Lau. After any employees pass applicable background checks and receive agent cards, they will be invited to participate in the committee, which will be evaluating whether or not the plan is successful or is succeeding. They will evaluate the plan to make sure that the plan is consistent with the rules and regulations of this commission and update it accordingly, both as to rule changes and demographic changes. And those reviews are going to take place at least annually for review of demographics of the city itself and review of the plan. As I said, the overarching goal of the plan is to ensure that the applicant is always at least as diverse as its community. We recite the categories for inclusion in greater detail in our written materials. To the extent that the law permits us, candidates for any job postings who are women, who are minorities by virtue of race or immigration status, LGBTQ+ status, or disability will always receive priority. Among such candidates, applicants with veterancy status will always receive priority. And we have a number of specific programs in place for how we intend to achieve these metrics. For us, meeting these diversity and inclusion goals starts with the job posting process. We've identified a number of publications. We've listed them here, and they're also recited in our written materials for publications that we know to be of wide circulation among the kinds of communities that we want to make sure are represented well in the applicant's workforce. Those are the Sampan, Bay Windows, the Bay State Banner, and their online job publications, as well as massdiversity.com, which is a job posting board that is specifically set up to make sure that applicants from these underserved communities have access to the sorts of jobs that we're looking to fill. That all being said, it is important to point out, and as our written materials will explain in greater detail, there is a slate of initial hires that we have in mind for the applicant. They are most of the current employees of Mr. Lau's legacy business at this location, the vape shop, whom, if a provisional license is granted, if the proper background checks are completed, and these persons accept job applications, the applicant will be meeting its diversity, equity, and inclusion goals beginning from day one. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the location itself. Mr. Lau touched briefly on the parking situation. It is in a settled commercial area. There's significant foot and mass transit traffic through this area. We've identified, 3 MBTA green lines within walking distance. There are bus lines. And with an eye to making sure that we are not a congestion issue, not only have we identified more than 200 metered parking spaces within walking distance, we have secured a written commitment from one of Mr. Lau's direct abutters for short-term access to some of the parking spaces at his location, which we hope will alleviate some of those concerns. The applicant is not within the buffer zone as to areas in which children traditionally congregate. There is a map that is contained within our application materials that shows the position of the business relative to some of those locations. We are outside the buffer zone as to schools, churches, etc. The location itself, which is pictured here, you can see it's at this intersection of Englewood and Chestnut Hill. As I said, we have secured the written permission of one of our direct abutters from their parking spaces, which we hope will alleviate any concerns related to parking. But we have identified the mass transit options that are available as significant sources of foot traffic, so that we hope that much of the business's access will come through foot traffic. I've already spoken a little bit about what the employment plan is going to look like. The background check process, I'm going to let Mr. Corbin speak to that when we get to his portion. But the general process is that postings are created by Mr. Lau, and then by any HR professionals who take over this role after license is granted. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee approves those hirings. And then they're populated across the job posting sponsors that we've identified on previous slides in our written materials. Normal background check processes will apply as to agent registration. We've gone into great detail about our competitive pay plan in our written materials. I would also point out that while Mr. Lau does not anticipate or not been made aware of any organized labor that is interested in the existing workforce, that Mr. Lau does and always has welcomed the feedback of organized labor. And my final item before I pass over to Mr. Corbin, we have received and submitted with our materials letters of support from Councilor Braden, from Mass State Senator Brownsberger, and from County Rep Vitolo, just showing their support or non-opposition to the application. As required under this commission's rules, we also have received written letters of support from Mr. Lau's direct abutters. Those are included with our written materials. And while we're aware that the commission does not require or necessarily reward petitions or other large signature items of that sort, we have included substantial support from community business owners and neighbors just sort of by way of petition and multiple signature blocks to show both the support for and the perceived need for Mr. Lau's business in this location. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Corbin to talk about our safety and security plans.
Hi, I'm Dave Corbin. I'm a security consultant with nearly 3 decades of experience in the private security sector. I've been consulting nationally for over a decade, and I'm board certified in security management and leadership. In terms, I prepared the security plan for this client, and in terms of our overall approach, it will be in compliance with 935 CMR 500.100, and it'll be designed to deter, detect, deny, delay, and defend through layers of security. The elements of the security start at the exterior perimeter with frosted laminated glass, hardened doors, intrusion detection system, video intercom, electronic locks with card access, commercial grade locks, LED lighting around the building, and 5 security cameras on the exterior. On the interior, we'll have 20 security cameras, panic alarms, locked display cases with laminated glass, motion sensors, seed to sale software, and agent identification badges. In restricted access areas, those will be accessible only by electronic locks operated by card access. There will be signage in place indicating that those areas are restricted. There will be panic alarms in those areas, a locked vault room, product safe, cash safe, and locked security closet. All security camera footage will be retained for at least 90 days, and additional details of the security plan can be found in the written application. In terms of on-site security personnel, we're going to hire 1 unarmed security guard to be on site during business hours until employees leave for the day. Primary duties will be to support security and safety of the establishment and occupants, to ensure product is not used in the vicinity of the establishment, to assist in positively identifying customers as 21 plus, to prevent unauthorized access, prevent loitering, littering, and to deter theft and diversion. In terms of the plan for transportation and delivery of product, there will be seed to sale software used, as John noted earlier. We will use third-party transportation agency certified by 935 CMR 500.105. Credentials of transportation services will be verified prior to accepting deliveries. All delivery marijuana products will be reweighed, re-inventoried, and accounted for against the manifest in full view of security cameras. Records will be retained for a minimum of 2 years, and discrepancies will be reported to the Commission and Boston Police within 24 hours of discovery. Our plan for transportation of monies to and from the site include using a GARDA, armored cash transportation, which we will retain, a policy and procedure for collection frequency, deposits, and transportation, cameras to view cash handling, packaging, and storage areas, cash pickups to occur no less than weekly, and any cash discrepancies will be reported to the Boston Police. Our plan for protecting youth from accessing product, there will be exterior signage stating that access is for persons 21 and over only. The front door will be locked, and there will be a video intercom in place to screen persons requesting access to ensure they are 21 plus by screening their ID before they're allowed into the site. The sales counter will be a secondary identification screening in person. There will be, as I mentioned, the security guard will be on site for enforcement and removal of underage persons. There will be agent training on diversion prevention and identification checks. And obviously, any violation or suspected diversion activity will be reported to the Boston Police. Turn it back over to John.
John, you are at your 10 minutes, so if you want to just give a brief wrap up of your presentation.
Yeah, I mean, for the buffer zone statement, I just wanted to mention that the full buffer zone statement is within our written materials as part of the application overview. And I think it would be important for that to be taken under consideration. And thank you for everyone for attending today.
Thank you. We will now move to questions from the board members, beginning with Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. I have reviewed the buffer zone statement. Now, just gonna, for purposes of reminding myself, this is the same location that we heard from you under a different name in September 2020. And again, we had a reconsideration hearing of it in November 2020. And since then, we were actually have another cannabis establishment. Yes, it's multi-state operator, but creating a buffer conflict for this location. So I appreciate the time you spent on the employment plan and the safety and security plan today in your presentation, but I still have concerns about this location. Back in November 2020, I stated on the record, I didn't think it was a good location. Due to the size, it would lead to overcrowding of the premise and overflow of patrons onto the sidewalk. And in general, I didn't think it was a good location for a cannabis establishment here. What are your comments on that? What has changed? I mean, it's hard for me to see the same exact location coming with works now a third time.
Well, the thing that I feel like has changed is that with the technology nowadays, with Leafly and Weed Maps, there a lot of the companies that are doing retail are getting a lot of online orders that are basically set up for a pickup window. So I don't really see, especially with all the competition out there, back 3 years ago, we definitely had a lot less dispensaries open in the city of Boston, versus now. So I don't really feel that the line issue or crowding issue will ever really become a problem with the size of my location. With the size of my location, I don't expect more than 4 customers in there at a time with the addition of the online ordering and express pickup. But yes, to answer your question, it's the same location.
Okay. And have you given any more thought? You're very close to Boston College, about ID checking and what you'll consider for backup IDs. If you mentioned that, I missed it. But tell me how you're going to put in measures to make sure that underage people aren't coming into your premise to purchase.
Yeah, I think Dave, my security consultant, can touch on that. I did mention that we are going to use the Flow Hub system, which implores multi-point verification checkpoints for their ID scanners to verify that the IDs are in fact real and they are not counterfeit. Because nowadays we do know a lot of counterfeit ones do even scan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a security expert, but I am also chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and no matter what technology you're using, you can't rely on it 100%. So I want to ask you, what are you going to use for backup IDs? What is acceptable?
So we would have to be a state issue ID, and we would supply, and I agree with you on don't rely on technology. People are really the key to security, and they're part of the layers of security. So definitely having the staff trained on, how to recognize legitimate IDs, but also providing them with a guide such as the ID checking guide, which has been published for over 50 years. It's relied upon by law enforcement and other agencies to check IDs from all different states to make sure, and it shows you basically how to check for the, whether it's a watermark or whether it's special printing or microprint, whatever it is. It shows you can look at it, the staff can look at it, compare the ID against it and make sure it's legitimate. Again, we're not going to let anybody into the premises without checking the ID first on the video intercom. So part of it is just denying people access if there's any issues regarding the ID. Obviously, staff can go out if there's a question, but the idea is to not let anybody on the premises in the first place. If there's a question, resolve that outside of the premises, so that you're not dealing with somebody in the store already and trying to purchase.
Yeah, given your very close location to Boston College, this should be at the forefront of your security plan. It should be something that you take very seriously and that perhaps you can work with Boston College on, should this be.
I agree.
You wouldn't want to be seen as a place where it's easy for underage students to get into. Those are my comments and questions.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I might have more questions after the other commissioners speak or after public testimony, but
Yeah,
That's where I'm coming from.
I just wanted to respond that I totally understand about the college being so close. I mean, as of right now, I still operate a 21 plus vape shop there, and we are adamant about checking IDs because we are the first layer of protection and the first line of protection to prevent minors from getting these products that are 21 plus. So.
Okay. Commissioner Holmes, do you have any questions?
I do, and actually, Mr. Lau just kind of gave me a lead in. So, Mr. Lau, how do you check international IDs, seeing that you're already running a 21 plus? Because I was going to ask, how are you guys going to check international? So, what do you do now in checking international IDs, seeing that, you know, I'm sure Boston College does have a lot of international students?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think Dave could probably answer that question better than I do, than I can.
Again, it would really be, we would provide the staff with guides to check IDs. And honestly, if there was a question about the authenticity of a international, you know, ID or passport, I mean, ultimately the idea would be to deny entry, right? If there's any question about, is this legit? Is it not? The default would be deny access, right? So that's really
Yeah,
the way we would
sorry
handle
to
it.
interrupt. Yeah, we actually still we get, because of our vicinity to BC, we do get a lot of international students with for say a driver's license from Malaysia or something like that. Something like that I cannot verify, so we turn away the customers.
Okay, that's what I was
For
gonna
the
ask.
most
I was
part,
gonna ask, how do we verify those? So you just, okay, so you just, if you can't verify, you just turn them away.
we turn them away. We there's no need for us to take any kind of risk, especially when there's a question about the identification. Any inkling, any red flag, even a bad feel, we turn those customers away. Sorry to those customers, but that's just how we would have to operate and how I operate at the vape shop now, which is a
Okay, and
21
that's
plus
what you
shop.
do now?
So,
That's what you do now at the vape shop? You turn them away? Okay, thank you. That was my question.
yes, that's
Thank you.
correct.
Commissioner Camacho?
Customers that have, okay.
I think you have a little delay, Jonathan. Commissioner Camacho, do you have any questions?
Definitely. And I'm gonna try not to go nuts here. Um, Checking international IDs is not your problem or any other dispensary's problem. It's federal law that anybody with an international student ID or visa or whatever cannot buy any products from a legal cannabis dispensary because immigration is federal law. I would ask your company to check with your legal department on that. And, you know, whether you can verify somebody's international ID is fine, but it's federal immigration law that somebody here on a visa cannot buy legal marijuana products, or that would be they would be subject to deportation. So please check with your legal department. The second thing I want to say is that your job postings seem to be very general. Have you posted in neighborhood community organizations in that area of Chestnut Hill and Brighton? And number two, your vape shop, are you proposing that you're going to laterally transfer employees from the vape shop to this dispensary? If so, what training are you going to give them? So I know that's a lot, but
Um, yeah, so about the employees, it's a small shop, it's family run. It's just me, my wife. We have one employee there that I've had for 8 years, since pre-COVID. Um, he will take the proper agent registration training and the proper managerial training, because he will be put on as a manager. Um, but what was the first problem? I think you mentioned about the international IDs. You are
Right.
correct. I want to say anyone on an international that also includes a working visa,
Yes.
along with the student visa, that they are not allowed to
Purchase
purchase any
or
sort
work.
of cannabis, or yes, or the work visa people also. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to add
Yeah.
that in, because I know it's not just student visas that they would be in trouble and it would cause trouble, and it's the federal law that they cannot touch these products because they are here on a student visa or work. And I wanted to just add work visa. Hopefully that answers your question, Commissioner.
No, thank you. The other question is job postings. Did you look to community organizations in the Brighton Chestnut Hill area? Community organizations where you can recruit members from the community?
The only real community organization that I was really deeply in talks was the YMCA at Oak Square, and then there was
Yeah.
also I want to say the Alston Civic Association and Brighton Main Streets. So we definitely want to, when we do our job postings and stuff like that, we definitely want to cast a wide net to where we can choose people that have been affected by the war on drugs, veterans, people that are part of the LGBTQ community. So we definitely want to, especially Boston residents too. Especially Boston residents, we want to employ people that are homegrown, like myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. Sir, what are the community benefits to this? Because I kind of agree with my Commissioner Chairwoman Joyce. If this was not a great location initially, what makes it great now? What are the community benefits to it?
Well, in terms of community benefits, we feel that it's a great location. I mean, when I first got there in 2018, I leased the location specifically for cannabis because I felt that for commuters, it's a great location with all the Green Line having so much transit trains there, the bus lines, all the parking. We do feel that we do hear your concerns from the other commissioners as well about the vicinity to the MDC Riley pool. I have reached out to them a few times with no avail, about speaking to them about a privacy fence, because I frequent that pool all the time with my kids in the summertime for the 5 or 6 weeks they are open in the summer. And I do agree, when I'm at that pool with my kids, you probably can't see the top of my shop logo, but I would still rather maybe a privacy fence or pay for more uh trees there. Anything to make it so we can operate without being a nuisance. That's also why we lease the 5 parking spaces, because as a business owner in the community, and I also live in the community too, I hear the concerns. I understand that Sunday is very hard to park there, especially when there are NFL games, because there's resident parking on some parts, and then all the metered spaces are usually parked with people from the last night partying. So that's why secured 5 parking spaces specifically for customers to alleviate any kind of problems. Hopefully that answers your question, Commissioner Smith.
Not really, but thank you. Employee benefits. So I'm looking the employment plan, all of it seems very general, like the diversity plan and all that. Little generalities, but I guess I'm asking, so what are the employee benefits? I mean, it's near MBTA train lines. Are they getting bus passes, Charlie cards? You know, you said it's $19. Are you starting at $19 an hour? How many people are you thinking of hiring? Are they part-time, full-time? You know, you talk about Boston residents with prior convictions are going to receive priority. Who are you reaching out to and working with on all of that? So I guess it feels just really general. So a little bit more specific around those would be good.
Yeah, not a problem. I think Christopher can probably touch more on the employment plan and the hiring process.
Sure, understood. So the written materials go into some detail about how compensation is supposed to work just at the wage level, right? You know, we have set our wage floors and how those wages get adjusted over time. As to peripheral benefits that would be offered, I mean, that is somewhat a negotiating process with employees, but you know, the availability of benefits through Mr. Lau's current payroll provider would certainly always be on the table. You know,
sorry, Mr. Ray, does that include health benefits and all of that presently?
In terms of would part-time employees be eligible for health benefits?
I'm just asking you about the benefits package too. Are you thinking of doing health benefits and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, if it looks like the money's there to be able to afford it, I mean, that would certainly, I mean, both to the extent that would be required to win the labor that is necessary to run the business and just as, you know, good citizenship, yes. But I mean, I can't speak to specifically, this is the plan that we're offering. We haven't onboarded a health insurance provider, for example, in part because we don't know if there's going to be a provisional license grant yet.
Okay.
Just wanted to say that in terms of for the employee process and giving them benefits for not driving their own cars and stuff like that, we would definitely be willing to pay for yearly bus passes, train passes, anything to alleviate the traffic in the area. Because the last thing I need as a business owners is 5 of my employees driving here, taking up 5 potential spaces for customers for other businesses. I'm not even worried about just my business. I'm not trying to be a nuisance in the area. So I just wanted to mention that
How many employees
would pay for anyone that commutes to work as a staff member as part of the benefits.
How many employees are you projecting to be there?
We only expect to have 4 full-time employees.
4 full-time.
6 total. We plan to hire 6 total.
4 full-time and 2 part-time? Or 6 total full-time?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last one.
Is it 4 full-time
4
and 2
full-time
part-time?
and then 2 part-time.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And that's only the beginning, just for the beginning, and we would, yes.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Soto?
Yes, I had a question in regards to the diversity and inclusion segment. I really tried to comb through and understand what was being suggested. I couldn't sort of find in words within the presentation or in the additional materials. So specifically in the presentation, it says that the diversity and inclusion plan is fixed through the finest cannabis license grant. I wasn't able to determine what that is or was, or if there's a copy that you could provide to us. But ultimately, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone if that makes sense. And essentially, it's a significant sort of weight on the scale in terms of how we, the prism that we see this industry, and I don't see it on the page. And so if you could help me a little bit there, I think that, and potentially supplement the board with those materials that you're referring to. Because right now it's just essentially some aspirational statements, which I agree with, but it's also like, how is that going to work? Or how do you expect it to work? Or how will you work towards making it happen?
Sure, understood. Yeah, all fair questions. I'll start at the beginning. So by the phrase, fixed through the license grant, what we intend to communicate there is that the plan that we have proposed to this board is the plan that we will implement at the point that we are ready to hire registered agents, right? That we're not going to propose one plan to this board and then modify it along the way between now and the actual license grant. So that this board can rely on the criteria that we propose to it. My usual line is going to be, please see our written materials. Obviously, your question is for a little bit more detail about how the plan works. So there's sort of two components to the plan, right? There are the goals, as you say, and then there are the specific programs that we have in place to reach those goals. Those goals, high-level goal being to be at least as diverse as the city, as to gender, sexual orientation, disability, and veterancy status. As our plans go into some detail, we identify those demographic metrics of the city of Boston as they're published by the applicable state and municipal labor statistics boards to determine what those demographics are, look at the workforce that we are either hiring or intending to hire, and ensuring that the workforce that we have now and that we are looking to hire out, say, the next quarter, the next year, that we have a plan in place to make sure that we are getting as many candidates as possible from communities that are going to reflect the content of those goals. Now, the publications that we've identified are publications where we intend to publish our job postings as those publications that have the best reach in the communities that we see as being the ones that we need to make sure that we are meeting our hiring goals, right? Obviously, hiring is an ever-evolving industry. If we identify other community partners who are reaching the kinds of communities that we want to reach, or that we need to reach according to what we have promised this commission we are trying to do, we will expand our outreach to those job boards. So that's sort of the program side. From the procedural side, as with many applicants, there's a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. That committee is, of course, first headed by Mr. Lau, who is the only employee of the applicant, prior to background checks, trainings, that sorts of thing. But as our plan communicates, every employee is going to be a member of that committee, and they're going to be bound by their membership. They're going to be invited to participate in that committee, and they're going to be bound by their membership in that committee to comply with the goals that are highlighted or that are sort of summarized in our presentation, that are described in our written materials, so that make sure that they are helping the company to take active measures to make sure that we are hitting those goals with projected hires. And then at the procedural level, the actual job postings, I think the presentation touched on this briefly. It's also described in the written materials. Job postings are created and approved by that committee for that purpose. Does that help to answer your question at all?
I think that was what I had read, and I think that's why I was asking the question. So, in other words, this committee, what would its responsibilities be? What would you suggest that they would be doing in terms of the numbers? I can certainly Google it and find out exactly what Boston's diversity is. Tell me though how you're going to work towards making the staff reflect that. I guess that's the part that I'm missing. And then make it a goal that it's a stated goal to us, not just that you'll do it to that thing, but like it will be 20%. And I'm not saying necessarily whatever the numbers are. I'm just kind of talking out loud here. But like this is the number that we're going to strive for, because if it's based on this number that is set by somebody else, right, then it's not going to be a fixed sort of goal that you can aspire towards. If it's potentially changing year to year, that's fine, and I get how the committee would weigh in on that makes sense to me. But I just don't see how this will play out when in other applications, we have seen detailed plans of how folks will work and strive towards meeting that goal. And if they fall short, what they'll do if they fall short of that goal, how they're going to, work to, improve over time. And I think that's just generally stated in this application and not actually focused on in any way. And it's a major focus of the kind of this process. So yeah, I think there just needs to be a lot more meat on the bone in order to really appreciate what and how you are going to go about the work.
Sure, understood. Yeah, and I mean, I certainly agree that it is important that the process be objective and that it be keyed to specific goals. And if this commission would prefer that we supplement our materials with the sorts of training materials that the Diversity and Inclusion Committee would use, we're happy to do so, right? Because as you say, it's not just a matter of making sure that there is a committee in place so that we check a box on the score sheet somewhere, or that there's a committee whose job is to make the place feel more diverse or whatever, but that there is a specific program of action in place. Go ahead, John.
I just wanted to say it also all starts with a minority owner. As a minority owner, it's just part of me and part of my hiring process that I normally hire minorities. So minorities like myself that have been hurt by the war on drugs. But it definitely starts at the top. I witnessed another application hearing in another town where they mentioned that they had 16 people on their corporate side that were minorities. And when the question popped up, how many of those people are of Latin descent or another minority and not just a woman? The woman responded with 2. So the way we would be hiring, we would be hiring women, but we would also be hiring minorities that are women that might have been had a little mark on their record because of cannabis in the past. We will definitely supplement the commission with a more detailed diversity and inclusion plan that will definitely satisfy the needs.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gandhi?
Thank you, Jasmine. So Chairwoman Joyce asked the question about the location, and I want to kind of get into it a little bit more. It looks like your previous applications were on this exact location, and per the documentation, this is a leased location. So I'm curious about why you're coming back in this exact location. What is the reason, that this location is, for lack of a better word, the only place that seems to be on your application? This is, I think, the 3rd time around. And I'm trying to trying to understand if why this particular location to run this business and not another location, especially because it's a leased space and not an owned space. So like, if you can help me understand that, that'd be great.
The reason why I still think it is a good location is, like I said, the public transit, all the parking, the accessibility. If I was granted a provisional license for that location that we're talking about, that we're coming again for the 3rd or 4th time, it's easily one of the most accessible cannabis spots in Boston, other than downtown Crossing, but no one's going to drive to downtown Crossing. We all know how the parking is over there. But I do feel that a lot of time has passed since our last application and since you have last saw us. I feel that there's a lot of competition in the area that would make it so we are not the only players in town, and there should be no reason why anyone would see any people lining up there from the pool area and stuff like that. We know that we do know that it's very close to Boston College. I deal with that every day. We have a lot of Boston College students come in for nicotine vapes and non-nicotine vapes to help them quit smoking. So I mean, I know the area very well. I've been operating a 21 plus shop in the area for a very long time. Um, I really don't see a reason why I wouldn't be able to convert it to a cannabis location without being a nuisance to the area. I've been a part of the community for a long time, and I really do care about the community there. Hopefully that does answer your question. Maybe Christopher can chime in a little bit more.
No, I mean, I think that's a great summary of why this location. I think that's maybe something that that I can say sort of, sorry, this is out of turn, Mr. Lau, but John is a self-funded business owner, right? I mean, he does not have free reign over every location that he might prefer to do business in, right? He's dependent on the capital sources that are available to him. I think he's made excellent work of them with this proposal. I think that he's put together a very realistic plan to achieve a safe, secure, accessible location with the assistance of a great, well-credentialed security consultant on the budget that's available to him. And apologies if that's too frank, Mr. Lau.
No, I think you hit it on the right on the dot.
Thank you. I guess I get the answer. I'm just it doesn't change. The location still hasn't changed, right? It's still across the street from a rink. It's still close to BC, still in the buffer zone. So I was just trying to get a better sense of why this particular location. And I hear what you were saying. And thank you for your response.
Of course.
Any other additional questions or comments from the board members? All right, we will now move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representative.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza here, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We had an abutters meeting on March 27th this year for the applicant. In that meeting, an abutter at 121 Englewood Avenue had some concerns about cut-through traffic. Two other attendees had questions about charitable donations and the diversity and equitable and inclusive makeup of the staff, as well as questions about regulatory complaints, which the applicant team was able to address or answer. As far as letters of support, we received a total of 74 with addresses in Brighton, 22 with addresses in the city of Boston, and 35 with addresses outside of Boston or with no addresses attached. We received one letter of non-opposition with no address or an address outside of Boston attached. For letters of opposition, we received 6 with Brighton addresses attached, including one from the Brighton-Allston Improvement Association. In May of last year, 2023, the applicant did forward to us 5 letters of support, as well as a signature petition with including about 700 to 800 signatures in support, not all with clear addresses on them. We are also aware that a number of prior opposition letters for the previous iteration of this application exists, but they were not sent to me. With that said, we'd like to defer to the judgment of the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other elected officials or their representatives that would like to speak? All right, we'll move to those who signed up to testify. Luke, if you want to go through those names.
Yes, the first one is Brett Silverman, if he's available.
He may have jumped off. We can go to the next.
Okay. The next one is Cheryl Weinstein.
Yes, my name is Dr. Cheryl Weinstein. I'm a Brighton resident. I'm a neuropsychologist. There's a flaw in the Massachusetts law. The flaw is that cannabis stores cannot be within 500 feet of a school. In wealthy communities, the sports playing fields of schools like Newton, Wellesley, Concord are all attached to the school. That means the sports playing fields of children of privilege are protected. Boston children don't have that privilege. For example, the school playing field of Brighton High School, which nobody's mentioned, is Cassidy Park. Cassidy Park is one of the most diverse playgrounds there are, where kids from all over Boston, including Brighton High School, it's their home playing field, play. Those kids, they're now going to have 2 cannabis stores. Happy Valley is 200 feet, will be 200 feet from home plate. This current application will be 400 feet from home plate. I don't understand why Boston youth don't have the same privilege as children of privilege from all of the suburbs. I'm from Alabama originally. I lived in Brookline most of my adult life. I know this would never happen in Brookline, next to Cassidy Park, a home playing field of a prominent high school. I'm from Alabama originally. In Alabama, I know what you call it when children of privilege are treated differently than children who don't have as much privilege. I don't know what to call it here. And my heart breaks because this is a very sincere applicant, a minority applicant, and you've already approved a very large corporation 200 feet from home plate. I just don't understand this. And perhaps maybe civil rights lawyers need to take a look at what.
Ms. Weinstein, that is your 2 minutes. You can submit additional testimony to us in writing. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Saeed Osmani.
Yes, hi, thank you. As a local business owner representing Pino's Pizza, we support this applicant. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is William Evans.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for hearing me. I'm Bill Evans. I'm a commissioner at BC, the chief of police, executive director of public safety. Prior to being here, I was with the Boston Police for 38 years. And when I was captain of the Halston Brighton area. And, you know, people like Eva Webster and others have fought hard to make Cleveland Circle a better place to live. And I just see, you know, already the one pop shop being so close to Cassidy Field. And I think it's ridiculous that we even consider putting a pot shop across the street from what John said, where he takes his children to look out as you walk around the pool and see a pot shop, the MDC skating rink. I have BC students living above it, beside it, on Sutherland. You know, I have 14,000 students over here. And clearly I have seen an increase in marijuana use on campus, the amount of medical reports as well as mental health. And so I think it's pretty sad to bring another establishment list into the city. You know, I still live in the city. I can relate to the doctor. I grew up in South Boston where we had way too many liquor establishments. And I seen firsthand as a young poor kid what it did to our community. The last thing we should be doing to the residents of the city is bring more alcohol and cannabis places. We need, you know, we have too much substance abuse, as I seen as when I was commissioner of the police department. And the last thing we need to do is introduce something like this that will only have a significant impact on our physical and mental health of our young students and the whole community. So Boston College is strongly opposed to any additional pot shops in the area.
All right, thank you. And the next up is John Bly. Okay, Mr. Bly isn't here. Andrew Elnaton.
1 second, Luke. John.
Oh, sorry.
He has his hand raised. I'm gonna
okay. Let me
unmute. John, I just asked.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. I was having trouble with the app. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Brighton Austin Improvement Association. I'm vice president of it. Unfortunately, Danny, our president, couldn't be here today. This applicant failed to receive support for us based on a couple of reasons. Store size, security measures didn't seem to be up to snuff. There was a lot of concern with how it was adjacent to the public pool and skating rink, obviously the baseball field there as well. Also, the fact that there's a buffer issue. You know, it's already close to an existing license. The other thing is, you know, in the meeting itself, we were concerned about the applicant's behavior. He was threatening to some of the members, and it just seemed like a bad fit for somebody who's going to be running a controlled substance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Andrew Elnaton.
Oh, hi. Thank you for listening to us. I was at the abutters meeting last 2 months ago, and I raised a question about the 5 spots in the Englewood at the Shell station. I actually feel that that's inadequate because that street is a one-way street, and we already have quite a lot of people who try to violate the one-way street by going the reverse. I can imagine with increasing traffic, particularly from delivery drivers, they're going to try to take the shortcut, and sometimes the shortest cut is going back on Englewood the wrong way. So I'm very concerned about just the safety of pedestrians along that area. But I also want to raise 2 points. The first one is that I did realize that the commission is looking for letters of objection, because I certainly hope that the number of supportive letters is not considered to outweigh the number of objectors, because by that measure, the people who object can certainly try to campaign and try to submit additional letters of objections from those who are strongly opposed to this. So please take that into consideration. My last point is that, you know, this issue about the buffer, a lot of the questions and consideration seem to be around minority hiring and security. The issue is the location is not ideal for all the stated. If the commissioners and Chairwoman Joyce really care about this, please abide by the rules that's already been set up. And that is, if there is a buffer issue, it should be plain simple. We shouldn't even be having this secondary hearing. It should just be a flat no, because you've considered that this is not an ideal location. I don't consider it an ideal location either because of traffic, you know, downtown crossing. If that's such a great public transit area where this is supposed to be, why is parking such an issue then? So I feel like a lot of the issues.
All right, Andrew, that is your 2 minutes. You can submit additional testimony in writing.
Okay, and we have Mary Higgins.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Joyce, Commissioners. My name is Mary Higgins. I am a resident of Fort Chiswick. I also serve on my Board of Trustees. I did submit a letter to the Boston Cannabis Board as well as to Counselor Liz Braden. I remember this applicant from 4 years ago. I had opposed it back then due to location. I'm opposing it because of the location. I've lived in the Aberdeen Historic District for almost 10 years, and I've seen a huge improvement in Cleveland Circle, the general area, including the entire revamping of Cassidy Park. That's a beautiful park now. It didn't always look like that. It was closed for a while. And then just with the youth hockey tournaments that go on at Memorial Riley facility there and the swimming pool, I'm dumbfounded actually that this application is coming before the board again. There is very limited outdoor space, green space. And I think just human nature, the unintended consequences of literally you purchase marijuana, you walk across the street, oh, there's Chestnut Hill Reservation, you know, let's just light up there. We already have enough smoking in public, particularly downtown where I work. And I also think parking's an issue as well. There's going to be a brand new building that the BPDA approved 2 doors down from this proposed dispensary. It's going to be a 30-unit apartment building, 6 floors. They're going to demo the building, and it's supposed to be multifamily housing. I don't know if folks are going to want to live 2 doors down from a cannabis shop And in addition, it is very close to Boston College. So for those reasons, I respectfully ask that you seriously consider this and not support this application for a dispensary at that location. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Luke, are there anyone else that signed up?
No, there's nobody else on the public sign up sheet.
Okay, so we do have a couple of hands raised. I will start with John.
Thank you. This is John Cusack. I'm a resident of Brighton on Washington Street. I'm in strong opposition to this project. The community has strongly opposed a dispensary in this location in the past, and it was denied by the BCB twice. I would say genuinely we're concerned and confused about why this application is being reconsidered. Because the earlier denials were a relief to me, the community has demonstrated that our voices were heard. Whereas the BCB to deny this application again, as the community still strongly opposes it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next hand we have is Eva.
Yes, hello. I am the leading member of Aberdeen Brighton Resident Association, which has been the local community group in the Cleveland Circle area for 25 years, although we only become active when there is an issue to deal with. And we are adamantly opposed to this for all the reasons that were stated previously. We were surprised to hear that this is going in front of the Cannabis Commission again, because you know, the spirit of the state law is very clear that the location of those businesses should not be close to schools, which means that we want to protect younger people from being influenced, from getting hooked on using marijuana. And it just happens so that the skating rink, the swimming pool, the Cassidy Park, they are all frequented by young people, and the issue of the buffer zone is also a no-brainer. I mean, if we allow the buffer zone rule to be broken, then there's no stopping that, and the issue of choosing the appropriate location for those businesses will be moot. So I urge the Commission to be consistent and deny this application just as you did before. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to give testimony that did not get a chance to yet? All right, seeing no one, would the applicant like to give final comments? Jonathan, Christopher, any final comments?
I'm sorry, can I just mention one quick thing that I forgot? We are aware that there are people who are legally entitled, young people, to buy marijuana, and then they resell it to underage people in the parks. And I worry very much about BC students participating in that sort of thing. And I stand with our former Captain Evans in his opposition on behalf of BC.
Thank you. Mr. Lau, any final comments?
No final comments. I just wanted to thank everyone in attendance for listening to our presentation, and hopefully you take our presentation and application seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. So the board will take this matter under advisement. Those are all the matters before the board today. The board's voting meeting will take place next Wednesday, May 22nd at 1 p.m. The information will be on our website, boston.gov/cannabis. The record will be kept open until next Tuesday, May 21st at 5 p.m. Thank you all for attending and enjoy the rest of your day.